You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us this week, as always, because we're going to be talking about building and growing and monetizing your online platform. We're going to talk about taking your passion, turning it into a platform, letting that become your paycheck, all the fun things that we like to talk about. And if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, I'm certain that you know that from time to time, we love to bring on some guest experts, some people who really excel in all sorts of things. And we like to bring in specialists to give us good counsel and good wisdom and good insight from some of the things that they've been building online. And if you've been listening for a while, you may remember that I would say roughly a year ago, I didn't happen to check the date specifically, but I think it was maybe roughly about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not exactly certain. We had a guest expert on by the name of Becky Kopitzke. And she's with us again this week. I'll tell you real quickly who she is as I introduce her. But Becky is the founder and the CEO of The Inspired Business. She's also the author of 4 traditionally published books, including Love Because, The Cranky Mom Fix, The Super Mom Myth, and the upcoming 100 Moments with God for Kids. It's a devotional from Our Daily Bread. She's also one of the 4 original founders of Ministry to Business, which was the precursor to the Inspired Business, which is Becky's hub for all things digital products and coaching and all of that. And typically, when I listen to podcasts, they usually tell people, hey, if you're interested in following this person's content, go to their website. And they mention that at the very end. But in case you don't make it to the very end of this podcast to hear me say that directly, I just want to let you know where you can find Becky online, and that's at theinspiredbusiness.co, theinspiredbusiness.co. So definitely check it out. But with that said, Becky Kopitzke, welcome to the Platform Launchers podcast.
Hi, John. I'm so glad to be here. As always, it's always delightful to talk with you and to see all of your wonderful members. So I'm happy to be here and happy that all of you are listening, because we're going to talk about something really fun.
Tell us, what are we talking about?
We're talking about email marketing. Doesn't that just make everybody think, let's jump up and dance? Email marketing. Come on, John.
It should make us get excited and jumping up and down and thrilled with it. But as Becky knows, we were just talking about this just before we went live with the podcast. Our members club is all live here on the podcast recording here with us. And we confess that many of us find email marketing intimidating. So Becky, maybe let's start there for a quick second. Why do so many of us find email marketing intimidating?
Well, I think it's because, as anything else, you have to grow it. You have to actively put some effort into growing a list, and then all the doubts and the questions come in. How do I do it? Does anybody actually want to hear from me? Am I going to annoy them if I email them? I'd much rather be passive. I'll put it out there on social media. If somebody sees it, they do. If they don't, they don't. They can bypass it. They can ignore it. I don't have to take that personally. But when you start talking about building an email list and you're hitting people where they live, they can unsubscribe. And then you can take that personally. And that can be a heavy thing for us to carry. I've learned lots of tricks for how not to let any of that trouble us. But in the beginning, it can seem like an insurmountable task. It's really not, but it can feel like it. So I understand why it'd be easy to feel like I don't need to worry about email marketing. Feels too heavy for me. I don't want to walk into that space. But if you take a chance, email marketing can pay off exponentially. That's why I love it.
I believe it. And you brought up one of the biggest fears that many people have when they're sending an email out to an email list, and that is the fear of someone unsubscribing. And generally speaking, when your list gets big enough, most people will say that just about any time they send an email out to their list, they do have at least one or several unsubscribers. I actually know somebody who's been in business for a while, and she has a sizable email list, but it might as well be that she has no email list, because I asked her how often is she using it, and she said almost never. And when I asked her why, she said it was because she just had a hard time overcoming that feeling of disappointment when someone would unsubscribe from her list. So that really does hold people back. So why even have a list if you're not going to use it? It's a guarantee no one's going to unsubscribe if you never email them. But what's the point of having the list in the first place if that's the case?
Exactly, because you're also not going to transform any lives of the people who are on your list who are going to stay there and who are on your list because they wanted to be. They opted in and they want to hear from you. So you're actually missing out on a wonderful opportunity to serve people through your email list, much less selling things and actually earning an income. But at the very least, people want to hear from you. They want to be encouraged by you. That's why they signed up. And if they unsubscribe, great. Let them go. All they're saying is, I'm not your ideal customer. So you no longer need to pay for me to be on your email list because I'm not actually going to pay attention nor ever buy anything from you. Therefore, I say, let them go.
Let
I
them
get
go.
regularly every email I send, and I send at least one email a week.
Mhm.
I get 5 or 6 unsubscribes every time I send an email. And every time I say, thank you for doing that scrub for me so I don't have to do it myself.
I love
Let
it.
them go. Mm-hmm.
You've made peace with this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't take it personally. I
Mhm.
unsubscribe from lists when I determine I no longer need this or this is no longer a fit for me. And I'm not going to be the best thing for every person. Not a single one of us is meant to serve every person. We're meant to serve a specific group of people that God has designed for us to serve.
Mhm.
And if that person is on my email list, I know that they're going to open the email and they're going to read it.
Mhm.
If those people are on my list and they're not the people I'm meant to serve, then they will unsubscribe. And that is okay because I can't be all things for all people. Not a single one of us should. We only need to focus on being who we're meant to be, who we're called to be for the people God has brought into our platform. And if anybody unsubscribes, I don't want them on my list. Bye-bye, because you're just going to weigh it down if you stay.
That's a good
So
point.
it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's listening right now that is relatively new to this concept of developing an online presence or an online platform, they're just starting to get things underway. I confess to Becky and to our group that when I was first new at developing my online platform, email marketing was very intimidating for me. I actually didn't really do a whole lot with it for a couple of years, and I regret the time that I wasted. But if somebody's just starting out and they're kind of curious, all right, what is email marketing? What are the benefits of it? I wonder, can you give them, let's start with just a foundational overview of what email marketing really is and also why it's crucial for building an online business.
Great questions. Email marketing, in a nutshell, is communicating with an audience through email. It's really that basic. And when we hear the term marketing, we think we need to be selling them something, but that's really not the majority of what email marketing is.
Hmm.
Email marketing is designed to build a relationship with the people who signed up to hear from you. And they did sign up. They cannot legally be on your email list unless they have opted in. They have chosen through some transaction to be on your email list, and they know that's what they signed up for.
Hmm.
And if they don't realize they signed up for your email list, that's what the unsubscribe button is for, which incidentally is also part of what is the legal process of having an email list. You must have an unsubscribe button. And if people are going to use it, let them use it. It's all part of the all the part of the process. But what I appreciate most about email marketing is that it invites you in to a potential customers and a readers, an audience, that person's world
Hmm.
because they invited you there. And it is nobody is locking down the gates. So, and I have a caveat for that in just a second, but as opposed to, for example, social media.
Hmm.
Social media is run by algorithms that decide whether or not anything you post gets seen by the people who are following your page. Maybe they want to hear from you, but there's some algorithm determining whether or not what you post is actually going to show up in my feed. And there are wonderful ways to use social media. I'm not knocking it at all, but an email list is where you can reach people and you are guaranteed to get into their inbox as long as you are watching for healthy deliverability. And yes, sometimes you'll go to spam, and there are all sorts of strategies that we need to use to keep our email list healthy. But for the most part, an email goes into someone's inbox and you have direct access to them in ways that you don't through other marketing channels. You could do an ad somewhere, but again, algorithms are going to determine on social media whether or not somebody sees your ad. I can advertise in a magazine or on a podcast, but my listeners need to be engaging with that forum in order to hear or see my ad. So if you are emailing someone, you are landing where they live and they've invited you into their living room. essentially. Now, I was going to say earlier, there's a slight caveat. So starting, I believe in 2024, a couple of emails systems, particularly Google and Yahoo, they're starting to crack down. I've just learned this myself, crack down on some deliverability. So there are some steps that you'll want to take. I've just learned I need to verify my domain, my sending domain. So my sending domain is, for example, we send from Becky at theinspiredbusiness.co or info at theinspiredbusiness.co. So I just need to go into my email marketing system, which for me is ConvertKit, and I need to verify the inspiredbusiness.co domain so that Google will continue to receive those emails. So if I have anyone with a Gmail address or Yahoo address, I must verify my domain in order for the emails that ConvertKit sends to land in a Gmail inbox.
And is that just as simple as just going into a setting, or what's necessary for that?
It is and it isn't. So it does require making some updates to your DNS settings. Okay. So it's something, if you're familiar with that, you go into whoever hosts the site from which that sending domain originates. So for me, I go into Cloudflare. This is a little techie here, but it's what manages my DNS settings. And I have to go and update some DNS settings, and then technically speaking, my domain ought to be verified. If you have struggles with it, it is worth it to find a tech person to spend 10 minutes to help you. Invest the money in it, because it's soon going to be key to making sure your emails are still delivered to Gmail and Yahoo. And I would say the majority of my subscribers have Gmail addresses. So that's just one very timely piece of advice. Whereas before, there were not a lot of barriers to getting email marketing out the door into someone's inbox, but now you would need to have a verified domain. Which is fine. That we know that's what we need to do. That's what we're going to do in order to keep the emails flowing.
I like it. So when you described email marketing as something that is part of a relationship, you're building a relationship with people that sign up for your content. I definitely think of it that way as well. I like to envision some of the people that I know are on my email list receiving the type of things that I'm sending out. So it does help me to streamline or clarify how I voice things and how I market things. And I wonder, you've been at this for a while, and I believe what you're doing is successful. I am on your email list, Becky, just so you know. I receive your emails.
Thank you for not unsubscribing.
I did not unsubscribe because I enjoy what you send, and you're not spammy. You don't send a whole bunch of things out. You send your regular updates, and you also send out on occasion a list of some of your favorite things. I guess you do that monthly. And I thought that was a really cool idea that you did that. But I wonder if somebody's new, or even if they're seasoned, and they asked you, all right, what fundamental elements make up a successful email marketing campaign? What aspects would you say, all right, these are the things that you want to make sure that you cover?
Great question. So there are two pieces to that. One is if you are selling something actively, if you are in the middle of a campaign, that's one strategy. If you are building rapport with your audience on an ongoing basis, that's your second strategy. So let's talk about the first one. Email marketing should be key in anytime you promote a product or a service, whether it's a new product or a service, or you are doing a flash sale or a special on your product or service. Email marketing is key. So I would say, because email marketing is key, all other strategies that you use for promoting your business, for building your platform, should feed your email list. That's crucial. So when you are on social media, when you are podcasting, when you are trying to get people to see your website through SEO strategies, all of that should be designed to somehow feed your email list, to capture that traffic, to get them on your email list. You can do that through one of two ways. You can use a lead magnet, or you can promote direct to sale. If you promote direct to sale, it means you're simply sending people to a sales page where you're selling them something. And if they purchase, they will get on your email list. So if they purchase, they will be a vetted buyer on your email list, which is the best kind of email subscriber to have. On the other hand, you will get more subscribers if you use a lead magnet, which is something free. I will give you this free thing in exchange for your email address. Either strategy, neither right nor wrong. I use both of those strategies in different circumstances. You will get more subscribers through a lead magnet, but potentially fewer qualified subscribers than you will get if you are sending someone directly to a sales page to purchase to get on your email list. Whichever way you choose, When someone has a transaction like that, they engage in a transaction, they get on your email list, and that's when you can continue to build those relationships. So if you are wanting now, let's say you have your email list, it's always growing, but you want to promote something. My recommended strategy for promotion is to, if you've got a window of about, say, 5 days where you're launching a product or service, then I would send an email daily. And then on the final day, minimum 2 emails. I wouldn't go as many as 4, 5, 6. I've actually I'm on some lists of people who a final day of a campaign, they'll send me 8 emails. That feels a little bit like overkill.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
would say
a little
slightly.
bit. But don't be afraid to send 2 emails, for example. Some people think everybody's going to hate me if I send too many emails. No, the people who are not your ideal customer will unsubscribe, and you will thank them for unsubscribing. The people who want to hear from you, I have had people come to me time and again and say, I'm so glad you sent me that last email because I wanted to buy this, or I wanted to sign up, or I wanted to book that call and I lost track of it. I'm so glad you gave me that last chance. I would have forgotten. And the numbers alone, the numbers don't lie. The last day typically of a campaign is when you get 50% of your buyers, typically 30 to 50% maybe. So that last day email, send one in the morning telling them it's the last day. Send one in the evening saying few hours left. It's not troubling anybody. So that's if you are promoting something, but then don't forget the follow-up. That's what's key about email marketing after you've had a transaction. You've delivered a freebie or you've delivered a product, then follow up with a few emails afterwards just to nurture that relationship. Tell them, here's how to get the most out of this product, or here are some of my favorite podcast episodes you might be interested in, or tell me more about you. The more you ask questions about your subscribers in your emails, the more they will engage and respond, and you respond back. That actually boosts your email health score, and it will increase your deliverability rates. So don't be afraid to have communication with your subscribers through your emails. It's not all about selling. It's about building those relationships so that people trust you when you do come in to sell something. So that's that first stage of building a marketing campaign, of using your email to sell something. But on the other side, your email, it's your people, it's your audience. And so pop in every so often to talk to them. So one of the elements I would say is important is consistency. And then coming in and sharing something of value that's not related to direct selling. You can have a short call to action at the end of your emails, but send something value added. You know, back in the day when blogging was the thing everybody did before most of us had podcasts, I would send my blog post as an email every week, and I got so much response. I still get a lot of responses from my emails because I'm communicating with people as people. And I want to know what's happening in their world just as much as I want to share what's happening in mine. And so I send value-added emails, which means advice, encouragement, tips, things they don't have to pay for. An email list should be a source of free content from a content creator. It's so that they build the trust. It's not all about you selling them something. You're providing value for them. So for me, those timely emails mean, for example, I have 2 regular rhythm emails that I send in the month. The first week of the month, I send out a What's Working Now email, and that would be considered a newsletter. What's working now in the world of digital marketing. I'll have a few tips on there of what I've been doing that's working, trends I'm seeing. For example, my next What's Working Now, I'm going to include that tip on email marketing, the Google thing. So that kind of information I'll send out once a month, and then halfway through the month, I'll send out what you alluded to earlier, John, my favorite things email. This is just a list of curated content.
I just think that's a really cool idea. And by the way, thanks for plugging platform launchers back in November. I was like, thanks so much, Becky.
Well, because what you're providing is a great value. You're providing great value, right? So I get to use my email list, not just to talk about what I'm doing, but about what other people are doing. And I can tell my email list, you've got to check out John. He's got this wonderful program over here. You've got to check out Sally. She's got this great book. So if I enjoy something that I know is of value to my avatar, and my email list should be filled with my avatar, then I'm going to share it with them, not only because it helps my colleagues, but also because in a way, it helps my subscribers to look at me as a resource, a trusted resource for things that aren't just about me, but let's celebrate other tools, other programs, other people who you might be interested in following as well. So there's that. But then I also, and I know you know this, John, because you and I have talked many times before about repurposing content.
Oh, yeah.
So every Monday I put out a podcast episode, right? Repurposing content is critical, and email doesn't have to be complicated because you can email whatever you've just put on social media, or you can email whatever just went up on your podcast. So for every podcast episode, I have my podcast script. If I'm doing a solo episode, I've got a podcast script. I've got show notes. I've got a blog post that is related to the show notes, rewritten show notes. And then I put that exact same content into my email. I might tweak it a little bit, but the email doesn't have to be complicated. It's just inviting people in to listen to the podcast that week. And but that way I get more listeners. I build more trust with my email subscribers. It's all a win-win.
Isn't that amazing? I think sometimes people think every single thing we do needs to be starting from scratch, that it has to be brand new content. But there are certain people that will read content on your newsletter that haven't seen the blog yet or haven't listened to the podcast. And to them, it's not repetitive. It's just helpful in either reinforcing something or pointing something out to them that they haven't seen as of yet. And you also said something that I'm a bit fascinated with that I just kind of want to follow up a little bit extra. So in addition, I think a lot of times we think that emails that we send out are just going to be because we're trying to sell something or promote something. But in the vein of relationship building that you just spoke about, you very quickly mentioned the idea of sometimes just sending an email out where you ask a question of the people that are on your email list. And as you were saying that, my mind started thinking to, when's the last time I sent an email out that just was simply asking a question without any predetermined way that I was trying to either promote something or encourage people to go in a particular direction, just asking it in a very open-ended way. Is that a strategy that you recommend for most content creators to do something like that from time to time?
Absolutely. Because again, your email list is a group of actual people that you're building an actual relationship with. Just because it's virtual doesn't mean these aren't real people, right?
Mhm.
And so I love to hear from my subscribers. So when they respond to an email that I sent, I always email them back. Now, eventually, as your email grows, maybe you don't have a lot of time for that. Maybe you have an assistant who will do some of that for you. But I do really try to make my email subscribers a priority for me, even though I have thousands of them. Thousands of them aren't emailing me every day. So I'll set aside a little time. Anybody who has emailed me, I try to email them back personally because, again, that's building the relationship. And like I said earlier, there's also some wisdom in that from a technical standpoint, because if your email subscribers are opening your email and then they are responding to your email and you respond back, that does some wonder with the behind the scenes, the wizard numbers, to where
Right.
the email system says you have a strong deliverability. Therefore, it's just going to continue to grow the health of your email list. So I really enjoy just communicating with people on the other side of my computer, because that's why I'm serving them in the first place. My email list is a place to serve people first and foremost. And if we look at it that way, that's our heart, really, anyway, right? It's
Right.
not about selling to them. It's about serving them and building that trust. And then when you have something to sell them, it is a solution to a problem that they have, because you're building a relationship with them. And
Mhm.
it is actually a blessing. It becomes an answer to prayer to many of your subscribers when
Mhm.
you have an offer, because they came to you knowing that you would have something to give them. And then I should have pointed out earlier also, John, there's another key to strong email marketing, and that is your subject lines. We just talked
Hmm.
about it's important for your email subscribers to open the email. So an average email open rate is about 30, maybe 35%, I think, of your email subscribers. Anytime an email goes out, 30 to 35% average will open up. If you're under
Okay.
that, you want to work on making that a little healthier. I aim for between 40 and 50%.
Mhm.
But just have those numbers in mind, and kind of watch where your email open rates are and try some different things with your subject header. So I try not to go with boring subject lines. And it might be not clickbait, but something that will intrigue them, right? So today
Right.
I just sent out, an email, for example. It's just, here's what's next. Okay, well, what is she talking about? And then maybe I'll have a little preview text instead of being claiming the obvious. Like, it could be this, right? 5 tips for email marketing. Okay, that might be exciting for somebody. But what if I said this email marketing made me $10,000 last week? Okay, what are you going to open? right? Or this email marketing tip, maybe not $10,000 last week, right? But this email marketing tip, it generated $3,000 last month or something like that. What are they going to open, right?
Hmm.
And even one of my favorites, if I am doing a live event, the email heading will just be the day of for anybody who hasn't signed up yet. You coming? Question mark. Right? Just kind of make your email subject lines fun, intriguing, not smarmy clickbait, but make them something that will intrigue somebody to open your email. Because then that's the whole reason you're sending an email, because you want people to open it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I also noticed something that you do very well with your platform. There's a lot of things I think you do really well with it. But one of the things I also think that you do well that I imagine would contribute to people opening up your emails on a regular basis or even considering being on your email list. One of the things that I've noticed is that you seem to have an eye for making some of these things visually appealing. So it's not just plain, although plain sometimes is totally fine.
Yep.
But I also noticed that there are some theme colors. There's I don't know, your content's very easy to navigate and it just has a visually appealing look to it. So you've obviously put some thought into that. Is there any best practices related to just the visual appeal that we should be thinking about with email marketing that maybe most people wouldn't even have occur to them?
Really great question. I do always recommend having a basic template, a pretty standard template that you use for all of your emails. Mine simply has my business logo at the top. Others for certain series, like the What's Working Now series, or it's a newsletter, right? So it has its own type of its own header. The Favorite Things series has its own header. Otherwise, all emails just have my logo at the top. I do retain as much as possible a color scheme. So sometimes my headers will be done in one of my brand colors. For example, I will occasionally add some images. Two schools of thought on images. One is that it can reduce deliverability. Others say the prettier your emails, the better. I don't know that either one of those is right or wrong. There are entire email platforms, for example, Flowdesk is built specifically for pretty emails, for people who like to get and send pretty emails, and they don't have deliverability issues as far as I'm aware. But then others would say make your emails as plain as possible, because sometimes the images can kind of mess with your deliverability or your open rates. I don't worry so much about that. I let other people worry about that. For me, it's about when someone opens my email, what do they want to see? What is going to make them smile when they see it? What's going to make it easy for them to read? So as far as best practices, use your brand colors. If you're going to use any colors at all, make it very consistent with your website. Make it look as though somebody is visiting your space in your email. It doesn't have to be a ton of different colors, doesn't have to be a ton of images, but just make it look familiar to you, whatever your brand colors are. Even if possible, not always possible on an email platform, but if you can use similar fonts to what is in your other spaces, just make it look like you so that people feel as though they are stepping into your space when they're looking at one of your emails.
I like it. Now we have just a few minutes left here on the podcast, and then we're going to segue into some Q&A with our members club. So if you're listening to the podcast, by the way, and you want to check out that Q&A, just stop over at platformlaunchers.com, and you can take the 2-week test drive of our members club, and you can jump on board and get to see some of the behind the scenes conversations we have with our guest experts. So we're going to get into that Q&A content in just a few moments, Becky. And again, that'll be in the training vault for those of you listening on the podcast or watching us via YouTube. But I wonder, in our remaining minutes, there have to be some moments in email marketing that amazed even you, that where you tried different things and they just were so successful, you thought, all right, I've got to do that again. But one of the biggest questions people ask related to things that either amaze them or things that they would love to see happen with their platform is the growth of the actual email list. And I know you mentioned a few things at the beginning of our conversation here, but I wonder, do you have any examples or stories or things that of things either that you did and experienced or that you've seen other people do and that they've experienced that you'd look at and you would say, yeah, that really did help them grow that list, and you would encourage some of us to maybe be thinking about?
Absolutely. So my top favorite method currently and longstanding for growing my email list is through what we call partner marketing. So essentially, I will borrow someone else's audience and move it into mine. So how do we do that? We find partners, we find people who are willing to share our content. Perhaps it's reciprocal. I will share your content. Will you share my lead magnet? I'll share your lead magnet, right? And John, you and I talked about this once before.
Absolutely.
If you can do a lead magnet swap,
yes,
what a wonderful opportunity. We did that,
which was wonderful.
How fun is that, right? So then I'm going to tell everybody about your lead magnet. You're going to tell everybody about my lead magnet. So you have an audience that is a fit for my audience, non-competing products. It's usually the best partner is somebody who has a similar audience, but a non-competing product or service. And ask that person if they'd be willing to partner in some way. A lead magnet swap is one of the simplest. You simply say, share my lead magnet with your audience. We'll give them something free. And then I'll do the same for you. And then you borrow from each other's audiences. Other partner marketing involves things like summits, being an online summits. And then you will be able to offer your lead magnet at that summit. You can get a whole new crop of subscribers from any one event. Being on podcasts is another smart one. As you did earlier, John, every podcast host is going to say, where can our listeners learn more about you? And so my favorite thing to do is lead them, in addition to your regular website, lead them to your lead magnet. So come up with a lead magnet. And there are some smart ways to use a lead magnet, some not smart ways. Your lead magnet in my world has got to lead to a paid product, but it's even if it's not leading to a paid product, if it's only going directly onto your email list, it's got to be designed to solve the same problem that your product solves, so that people become intrigued and it's standalone of great value, so that you have solved something for them and they're going to say, I want more where that came from. So that's a smart lead magnet if you're giving something away for free. But when you do, you'll say, for example, John, and I'm just going to, I'm totally putting myself out there. This is my example of how I would do this. And so I'm doing it right now on your podcast. You will say, I'll say, go to some very easily audibly shared URL for your lead magnet. So I'm going to say, John, your listeners can go to theinspiredbusiness.co/quiz, and they can take a quiz where I'll ask them questions to determine what level of digital marketing genius are they. And based on their answers, I'm going to send them 3 step-by-step instructions for how they can boost their email marketing game or their digital marketing game. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So I technically just did that here, right? But I want you to
people should really go to that URL, right?
Go. They should really. It's real.
All right. So let's repeat it. theinspiredbusiness.co/quiz. And by the way, I can testify to the fact I'm on Becky's email list. I legit get her marketing emails. She's not spammy. What she sends is helpful. Even just go to her website. Even if you don't want to do the quiz, you just go to the website, I'm sure, and just sign up directly. Just send her an email. Get on the list. It will help you. Anyway, go ahead, Becky. Finish your thought.
Well, and that's all I wanted to share, is that if you are creating a lead magnet, have a very audibly simple, repeatable URL that you can share on the podcast. These are considered partner activities. Maybe you come in and do a guest training for somebody, and in order to do the training, somebody has to sign up for it, but they sign up through your sign up page so that you get the emails. Partner marketing is wonderful because it blesses the partner, because you're going to share something with them that they're not an expert in, and it's going to be a blessing to their audience. It's a blessing to you because you get to share with a new audience, and it's a blessing to the audience because you're offering something typically for free. So partner marketing is where I lean. It builds network, it builds relationships, it serves people, and it grows your email list.
I love that. Becky, this is so I'm looking forward to our Q&A here in just a moment with the Members Club. But again, if you're not familiar with Becky's content, again, you could find it at theinspiredbusiness.co. So theinspiredbusiness.co. And if you want to take the quiz that she just mentioned, go to theinspiredbusiness.co/quiz. Becky, any final words of wisdom for those that are either listening to us on the podcast or via YouTube?
I'd just like to remind everybody that your message matters, whether it's on email or on your podcast or in your books. Don't be afraid to reach out to people in any of those forums, any of those formats. Don't be afraid to use email marketing, because there are people out there who will be blessed to hear from you, and you are called to speak to them. So don't let the technology overwhelm you. Don't let the fear of rejection overwhelm you. Just get out there, put yourself out there, and share what God has called you to share with other people, and you will be blessed by it. I know you will.
I love it. Becky Kopitzke, always wonderful to have you on the Platform Launchers podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure.